Hello. Before you get into this episode, we have got a tiny favour to ask you. And it actually is pretty small. It literally will take you 2 seconds.
So 2% of you already do this, but there's a whopping 98% that don't. And we're talking to you. We need you to hit follow or subscribe to this podcast in order to help The Curve create more and more episodes of bigger and better content that you can listen to.
Yes. So it's literally the easiest thing ever. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, could you please hit the follow or subscribe? It means you won't miss an episode. It means the more people that find this podcast and listen, the bigger we can make our production. We can get better guests on. It's like the most helpful thing ever. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the follow or subscribe, we would be so grateful.
So grateful.
Other than that, enjoy the episode. Hi, and welcome to The Curve Weekly, the podcast that keeps you up to date with all the money, business, and stock market tea.
Everyone should experience first class at least once in their lives, and Annie shouldn't miss out just because she can't afford it. Help me, I'm poor.
I think it's all turning to custard, Vic. What? Like our podcasting career. I used to be so attentive with we must record in the best conditions.
Or anal? I think anal.
I would say anal. I would definitely say anal.
Yeah.
In terms of the light, the sound, no, blah, blah, blah. Right now, yesterday we recorded a introduction to a podcast in your car because we'd forgotten to do it. And now I've set myself up in the family kitchen with doors wide open, just for anyone who doesn't know audio. Can you hear my dad coughing in the background?
And your mic keeps rubbing?
Oh, great. Sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to hold it up because it's falling down. You know, it's just turning to shambles, Vic.
I don't think it's shambles. I think it's just you leaning into a bit more of a relaxed lifestyle.
Okay.
I quite enjoy it. Bless, I'm staying at my sister's house and her 2 kids were up last night, just kept waking up and crying. And I was like, gosh.
It's nice to not have children?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so amazing.
You kind of forget, that parents have that constantly when their kids are young. And it was almost like a reflection of I need to give my friends a bit more, I guess, compassion
for sure.
when they've got young kids. If they've been up 4 times in the night, no wonder you're a bit not yourself or
cancelling a lunch and you're what the hell?
Yeah.
I saw this meme the other day and I was like, you know that you can tell your friends that don't have kids and they're like, do you want to go to Africa on Friday? And I was like, that's so true. That's so what I do. Hi, anyone available for a worldwide trip in 2 days' time?
Yeah.
No.
Me, King.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God, do you know what I had to do the other day? I had to take the morning after pill.
Oh gosh.
I was like, am I 16? My friend had to pick me up from a boy's house and we were meant to hang out. And I was like, I know that we were meant to go to Piha and do the waterfall walk, but actually I'd like to go to the Countdown Pharmacy because I need the morning after pill.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I always am so careful. And this time I don't know what happened. And I was like, I actually felt so awkward. They're like, so when did this happen? You have to fill the form out. And you're like, 3 hours ago. That's funny.
Anyway, finance news. So
can we get a fun jingle or something that goes from our chat to this so that you don't have to be like, anyway, I know. We should do that. Emily, could you please help and find some fun sound effect?
Yeah, we need a segue. I was trying to think of one with kids and then I was like, oh, no, nothing about today's podcast is about children. And then it's thinking about the morning after pill. Nope, nothing's about the morning after pill. So we're going from the morning after pill to WeWork.
Oh, I reckon there'd be a few people at WeWork that need to take the morning after pill.
I agree.
The amount of people that meet at work in co-working spaces, no joke.
It's something like 70% of people meet at work or through work relationships.
Maybe I just need to hop around to different industries because the radio industry didn't have much for me. Neither did the music industry. Advertising seems to be where everyone meets. Don't you reckon?
I reckon finance.
You haven't met one boy in finance.
There's lots of boys. I've met lots of boys, just not the boys I'd like
men?
to date.
Just no men.
No men. No men I'd like to date. Anyway, WeWork. So remember that IPO did really, really well. Then COVID hit and everyone started working from home. So people didn't need co-working spaces. And so its share price has fallen off a cliff. But now the founder, Adam Newman, has planned to take over the company and buy it out of bankruptcy, which is a bit of a spinner.
Hold on. So he's already the owner and he wants to do that.
Well, yeah, it's because the share price has fallen so much. He's like, you know what? There's a whole bunch of assets. Yes, there's a whole bunch of liabilities, but he's partnered with a hedge fund called Third Point out of New York. And he's like, hey, mate, let's buy this business because there is actually still value in the business. And so this is kind of what can happen in companies that go bankrupt. So which is why shareholders tend to hold on to their shares. But it is pretty risky. But it kind of means it's not going to disappear. So it might get broken up slightly. They might buy some of the assets, but essentially it's pretty good news for WeWork. It means that we might still see its signs around and we might still see co-working spaces, we might, lol. Yeah, lol. So that is
I kind
exciting.
of thought this would happen. Is that weird? Like I didn't think it was the end of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think there's something like $15 billion of assets that the company still has. So there's value in that.
Billion? Good God.
So it's still $15 billion of assets. Yes, there's about $20 billion of liabilities. So that's like leases, for example, that they have to pay on certain contracts. But there's still value in this business. And Adam Newman he's worth about $1.7 billion. So he's got a bit of cash. And so he can go to this hedge fund, he can go to banks, he can go to other places and get funding to purchase back WeWork, which is quite exciting. And he's actually started his own company. So he's got this company, this startup called Flow, which is a real estate company. And so he is effectively trying to buy WeWork and fold it into that company. So watch this space. But WeWork did go from, at its peak, it was $47 billion company, which is wild. Wild, wild, wild. So
Fuck, I just have got to tell you something.
What? Oh no.
You always say wild.
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 Wild. Wild.
And I feel like I should have said this to you months ago, but I haven't. And I thought, you know what? You need some new adjectives, actually.
Crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if that sounds rude or not, but I just thought I'd let you know. Because you probably didn't realize. It's like when you say like or or where we all do. But you know when you're kind of like, you're like, it's wild, like all the time. And I think because I listen to us record and then I listen to the edit, I keep thinking, God, I really should tell her to like open the repertoire to a few different like.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is
absolutely
crazy.
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing, yes. And in other news, we have Disney. So remember a while back how Nelson Peltz, which is Nicola Peltz Beckham's father, who is married to Brooklyn Beckham, just making a little pop culture connection.
So Brooklyn Beckham's wife's dad.
Yes. Yep.
Got it.
So he...
Oh my God, sorry. I've got to tell you a funny story. When we went away to the Cotswolds in England, we went to Soho Farmhouse. So we were standing there in line waiting for our coffees and first of all, someone had seen as we walked in, what's the younger one? Romeo Beckham.
Oh, yes.
And someone was like, oh my God, Romeo's here. And here we are like clucking like 12-year-olds. Some of our friends are pregnant. We were acting honestly like children. And then we turn around and we're like, oh my God, it was Romeo. And as one of our friends said, Romeo Beckham, she realized she was saying it to his face. He was like standing behind us in the line and we were like,
oh my gosh.
Like it was such an uncool moment. We were like, we're like the boomers flying around being like, the Gen Zers, you know. I was like, oh no.
He must get that all the time.
And we had to stand in the line waiting for these coffees for like 5 minutes. All of us just like, oh, I want to leave. So awkward. Anyway, so it was his brother's wife's dad.
Yes, and he has a hedge fund. He runs a hedge fund. And so what he's done is he's bought a whole bunch of Disney shares because he doesn't think that Bob Iger, which was the returning CEO, has got it in him to turn around Disney effectively, or thinks he's not doing a good job. So he's bought a bunch of shares. He's trying to get a seat on the board so that he can take control and effectively dictate how the business is run. Anyway, so that's been going on. And there's a bit of animosity because it's like someone coming into the curve and being like, oh, you guys are doing a shit job.
That's so arrogant.
Yeah, I can do it better. And so there's a bit of animosity between Bob Iger and Nelson Peltz. Now there's another activist investor. It's called Blackwell. It's the company name. And they've now become active investors and are trying to do something different to what Nelson Peltz was trying to do and different to what Bob Iger is trying to do. So you've got 3 competing parties now. And it's getting quite juicy. They're all like saying, no, I think we should be doing this. I think we should be doing that. I think you should be leaving. I think I should put in this replacement. And it's just getting so messy. It's almost like its own Disney series or Netflix series. It's like,
it just sounds like a massive ego fight.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Also, sorry, do you look in that scenario and you look at the 3 people and ask yourself who actually has the expertise to make better decisions than other people? Like, why is old mate Peltz all of a sudden think he knows how to run a Disney? Has he run a company like that before?
Yeah, so a lot of these hedge funds will buy large stakes and then they'll put their own expertise into businesses, turn them around, and then sell their stake or their shareholding for much higher price.
Because they make money, because they've made the business
because the share price goes up eventually.
Okay.
So that's why they do it. And a good hedge fund or a good activist investor, whatever you want to call them, they will have a good track record of doing this. And therefore, when they do get a seat on the board or they do buy large shareholdings in companies, the rest of the investors are like, oh my God, great, because you've had a great history of doing this in the past. If the share price goes up, that benefits you and me as an investor. So that's kind of why people get a bit excited when you get activist investors on board. Now, it's not guaranteed. It's not every time there's an activist investor that things turn around. You know, Bob Iger could really kick in his heels and be like, no, I'm not leaving. I don't think this strategy is good. Get lost. Or it could take ages to play out. Like, it could be 4 years, 5 years, and then Nelson Peltz might be like, you know what? Screw this. This is too hard basket. I'm going to go and look for something else. So it is a bit dependent on the activist investor, who they are, their history. But what they're proposing, so Blackwell is proposing to split the entertainment company into 3 separate companies because they believe that, you know, 1 + 1 + 1 equals 10 rather than 3. So they're thinking, you know what, we can create more value if we split this company into 3. And that's a sports division, an entertainment division, and a resorts division.
I reckon that's clever.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're saying, Blackwell's saying, you know, Disney's trying to do too many different things. You know, Netflix is just focused on streaming and it does that so well. Whereas Disney's trying to do theme parks and sports and hospitality and real estate and all these other things. And it's
real estate? Since when are they selling houses?
No. Sorry, they own the theme parks, which is effectively real estate. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's actually, they own $80 billion of real estate.
Lordy.
80 billion. So they're saying you spin that off into its own company and it would be much more appropriately valued than it is locked in or kind of hidden away in a big entertainment company. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out as well. But now that you've got another activist investor in there, it is getting a little bit juicy.
Spicy.
Yeah. But I reckon Netflix would probably do a series on what happened at Disney. It'd be quite funny getting a competitor to do a Netflix series on you. Anyway.
If it was on the Beckhams, if the Beckhams were involved, I think I would be interested.
Oh, totally.
You know, if like Nicola Peltz, because I find their relationship fascinating.
Same. I don't know why.
At 21 are you married? Like 21, I was so immature, it's not fun. I know there's people that are way more mature than that, but I just look back at my 21-year-old self, and if I had been like, I love you, baby, I love you so much, all over social media, I'd be so embarrassed looking back at it.
I did think that too, but then I watched the Beckhams and realised how young his parents got married. They were like 21 as well.
Oh, they're following on.
But I agree. It's like I've changed so much, I hope, since I was 21. Like if I met my husband at 21 and now 14 years later, I'm just such a different person.
I'm in the same. I'd hope that I've grown a lot since then. And then to think who I'd be attracted to at 21 comparatively to now.
Oh, totally.
So different.
And I was more attracted to like the cool guys, not the guys that like treated you well, you know?
Oh my God,
so I would have
same.
been in a great relationship.
Oh my God, imagine you at 30 married to that absolute tosser.
What's that? Would you rather marry the person you lost your virginity to or do your first job for the rest of your life?
I know I've always said I'll definitely marry the guy I lost my virginity to. Always. So hot.
Bless him. Speaking of your 20s, do you know who or what, turned 20 this week?
Apple.
I think you'd be quite shocked. No, Apple's like...
Microsoft.
Apple is so old. Think newer.
Tesla.
No.
Can you give me some other clues? Like, can I have a clue?
What about hand novel?
I knew you'd do something like this. So it's like foot something, is it?
What's another word for what's another word for novel?
I know, I'm trying to think. I've no idea. Book? Oh my God. Foot book.
Oh my God, you idiot.
Facebook.
Jesus. God. You know, this is only a half an hour podcast, babe. We got to be quicker. We got to be more on the ball than that. Footbook. Never heard of that company before, but yeah. Yes. Facebook turned 20 this week.
Wow, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Facebook. But yes, it was its birthday and it had an amazing financial result that came out and its shares were up 20%.
Wow.
Adding $200 billion to the company's value, which is the biggest one-day move in Wall Street history. I was waiting.
Do you
for
want
like
me to be a little bit
wow.
more? Sorry. No, it is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about it. So in Wall Street history, it's the biggest company movement that's ever happened in one day.
Yeah. Adding $200 billion in value to a company in one day is the biggest move in Wall Street history for one day move, which is crazy. Miso. Sorry. Yeah. So quite wild that a 20%
Is it wild?
move.
Is it wild?
Fucking hell. Oh gosh, it's like calling someone out for when they say It's like so annoying.
It's
And
super
all you can think
annoying.
of is saying Yes. So its share price rose 20% and added $200 billion to its value.
You'd be stoked
Yeah.
if you had invested when it was lower and then you could pull that money out.
Totally. If you just
Imagine-
invested for a day. If you invested, I don't know, you'd have to invest quite a lot, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, they were talking a lot about the future, the metaverse, all of that, and we've kind of heard them talking about that.
Oh my God, what came out about the metaverse? I'm kind of interested though.
Well, they're still investing billions and billions of dollars, but I think the key thing that investors noticed was just how much its core apps, so it's WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, are actually still crushing it, even though we're 20 years in. So it has 3.2 billion people a day still using its apps.
It's enormous. Do you know there's only 7.8 billion people in the world?
Yeah.
So that's like, what, nearly a third of the world is using their apps every day?
Every day. I know.
Holy shit, that's
Imagine
a lot.
having a business that touches that many people. That's
Yeah, well.
crazy. But also, this whole celebration was a bit short-lived because Mark Zuckerberg's actually been in front of the Senate committee in the US over concerns of child safety of its apps. So a lot of parents are concerned and there've been quite a few suicides, which isn't
that's awful.
isn't very nice to hear around the use of their apps and the influence they have. And so there's been a whole bunch of social media companies in front of the Senate just being like, what are you doing to make your platforms more safe for children? So
It's so hard though. And also I'm not trying to take away the fact that they need to fully take responsibility to put things in place to protect people and their mental health. And I'm definitely just prefacing this by saying I'm not trying to say that that's not incredibly important.
yeah.
But also there's so many downsides to so many companies. There's no way that they would have realized, or maybe this is naive, how badly it would affect people. And then how do you counteract that when you're so far down the rabbit hole? It's like
I know.
the whole point of wanting people to be addicted to your apps is to grow your business, but then the downside is that so many people are being harmed. You know, it's like, it would be so hard to find a way out of that.
And it's still such a new space, you know, with TikTok, Instagram, the controls are still being developed in terms of what children can and can't see and who decides that and, you know, where the restriction should be. It should be 16, should it be 14, should it be 18, like all of that. And so
should there be restrictions on time limits?
Should it be the parents' responsibility or should it be the companies like Facebook and TikTok? And I think it's more the algorithm, you know, with a TV, you know what's playing when. You can turn it off. Whereas with Instagram, for example, or TikTok, you don't know what your children are being fed and what they're
It's so true. You have no oversight as to like what they're absorbing.
And so if they're feeling a bit lonely or down in the dumps and then they keep getting fed the stuff that fuels that, then they're kind of in this spiral. So it is tricky. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this, and no doubt some measures around child safety, but also the company's still doing so well. So if they did have to put in some restrictions, I'm sure it's not going to impact them too much. And then lastly, before we finish, today is, well, in the US, it's Monday today, but it's actually Sunday in the US, is Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought I'd have a few fun stats. Do you know the average price of a ticket to the Super Bowl?
How many tickets do they sell?
I think there's 70,000 in the stadium in Las Vegas.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, a Taylor Swift ticket is going for like $1,000 these days, right? So maybe 1,000.
And maybe you get a 2 for 1. You buy a Super Bowl, you see her, you see the Super Bowl.
They would lose my shit.
I know. I wonder how many people are actually just buying Super Bowl tickets to see her.
Wait, she's playing?
No. She'll be attending to support her boyfriend.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Oh my God. So all these like Taylor Swift fans are going to be trying to get tickets not to even watch the game, but just because so they can spy her. That is so funny.
Quite crazy.
How much are they?
They're averaging $10,000 a ticket.
Oh no, there's no way a 14-year-old's buying that.
No, I know. Yeah.
Holy moly, $10,000.
Which is the highest on record that they've ever been. And some are reportedly going for, on like resale websites, for over $41,000 for a ticket to a game. Like, I'm just baffled that someone would pay that.
Do you know what? That's like, okay, I'm not very good with zeros, but there's what? So the amount if there was 70,000 people buying tickets for 10,000, is that 700 million?
I'm not sure.
Well, it says 7 and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 zeros.
Yeah. Yeah, wild. Oh my God, sorry.
So, I know. You said a lot. Fuck. I'm so glad I brought it up now.
Yeah. Jesus, okay. So the $41,000 that some are reportedly going for, it's about 93% higher than what tickets were in 2019. So we talk about inflation. There has been so much inflation in Super Bowl tickets, which is crazy. But also another stat, a 1-minute slot at the halftime show for advertisers. So you know how advertisers go crazy to create really epic ads, and they're usually quite funny. Like, I quite like watching them. I think because they spend so much money producing them. So a 1 minute.
I know the world will talk about them too.
Totally, yeah. And it's usually the premium brands that can afford this. So a 1-minute slot at the halftime show at the Super Bowl costs advertisers $14 million. For 1 minute. 1 minute of advertising.
But imagine what you would get out of that. Imagine if we just shuffled on stage for a minute, did a little interpretive dance, held up want to learn about money? Listen to our podcast. Like, we'd probably be the #1 finance podcast in the world.
Yeah, true.
If anyone wants to give us $14 million, that would be epic.
If anyone wants to see us at the Super Bowl halftime show, please.
Oh my God, honestly, you couldn't pay me to do that.
We would be happy to. Are you kidding?
Would you do it?
I would 100% do it.
Oh
if
my
someone
God.
was like, but we've got a 1-minute slot at the halftime show, would you and Soph be keen to go on there and just talk for a minute about finance and I would be like,
oh my God.
I would go for a minute and a half and just eat into the next person's time.
I reckon I'd have to be either like incredibly drunk to get myself out there, or I just need to be your backup dancer. Like, I honestly don't reckon I could get a word out. I'm still struggling to speak to like 200 people at an event, let alone the entire world.
It's the Super Bowl.
I'd probably pee my pants, and then I'd be the girl that peed her pants on.
Oh my gosh, and we'd go viral, and then the business would benefit. So this would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, We've got another podcast to record.
Oh, yeah, gotta go.
Gotta go. See you later.
Have a good week.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the money, biz and stock market news. And if you like what you heard, we would love a review. Thank you.
Yes, we would love a review. But if you did hate it, please, don't leave one if you hated it. No, but in all seriousness, could you please leave a review? Because it really helps other people find our cute little podcast.
And we hope you have a good week and see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Sweet? Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Lol. See you next Tuesday. I mean Monday. Hello, everyone. It's Vic here, your friendly Vic from The Curve. I have a favour to ask you. You know, Soph, she beavers away super hard at doing all the production of the podcast, and she recently told me that a very, very, very tiny percent of you, 2% of you, follow or subscribe to this podcast. And I nearly fell off my seat. I was like, what are the 98% doing? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to say to you, please, please, please click follow or subscribe, whatever platform that you're listening to this podcast on, because it really, really helps us in terms of producing a bigger and better podcast for you. So also, actually, it means that you won't miss out on any episodes, which heaven forbid you should.
You'd have nothing to talk about at work.
And it takes 2 seconds and you could have done it by now. Gosh, I sound like my dad.
Yeah. Oh. But it's true. It's a very quick and easy thing and it helps us so much. So if you wouldn't mind, we'd really love that.
Thank you.